the defendant's 18th supplemental request for discovery filed October 30th, 2024. The state incorporates the following responses as it fully sets forth at this point. The state's response for discovery request filed January 2023. And again, I'm not going to go through each of these, but a few of these, we can kind of guess what they were asking for. But when it comes to the IGG information, we kind of thought that might have all been handed over, but I don't think it has. And the state's basically saying they are following the law. And this is all going to, so it says the state has and will continue to provide discovery in accordance with Idaho Criminal Rule 16 in application of the law and reserves any and all objections thereunder. So we really don't know. I mean, they could still be withholding discovery. And if they are, we've been talking a little bit about the IGG, Nina and I, and it kind of brought Nina back to something that she's studied extensively, which is WSU Police Chief Don Daniels. And it's kind of interesting how Don Daniels came into power, and we have a little bit of information on that for you too. But really what I'd like to do is toss it to Nina and pick up the story, because the story of Don Daniels apparently starts at the search warrant. So that it begins at the beginning of this case that we're following. And yeah, I'd like to toss it to you, Nina, and hear what you'd like to say to start out with. And I've got sound bites and paperwork to show when you're ready.
Okay. The Don Daniels, what interested me about it is the original search warrant for WSU was 49 pages. Well, then after the Brady Giglio got brought up and they started talking about, the investigation into an officer and all that, and all of a sudden the WSU was sealed and it had a date of until like March 1st. It gave like 60 days. And I thought, why would you just seal it for 60 days? Well, after the 60 days, they released it. Well, that 49-page search warrant turned into a 166-page search warrant. And me being me, of course, I read every page, and I'm like, wait a minute. She was the one being investigated, because why else does the search warrant come out? It's 49 pages. And then 60 days later, it's 166 pages. And if you'll notice, I don't know if anybody has done the whole 166, but a lot of it's repetitive, But the reason why is because they're having to toss it back and forth to the court, to approve this or approve that, And I'm not going to go that far into it of why I think she's part of the Brady Giglio until we establish the story. So now I'll toss it back to you. You're muted.
I'm trying. I'm sorry. So just on that initial description that you just gave, that kind of explains a little bit in the search warrant that I didn't understand before. It's that you're saying it's that constant back and forth. The court was asking, do you think they're asking for more information? Or is this the dates that they provided receipts or the dates that they asked for more information? Like, why is it tossed back and forth to the court so many times?
I think what's happening is, like I said, the original one was like 49 pages, which is the straight up just search warrant. Okay. And, that this original was from Blaker. And so then what happens is she took his, because now she has to go to their court to get the search warrant approved. So she, instead of just taking his Exhibit A, and I won't call it a PCA or an affidavit because I firmly believe that those are sealed. I think we have an Exhibit A, but with it being Blaker, I think that should have been Exhibit B if Payne was A, but that's just my opinion.
Oh, that's a good point. Right.
If you're going to use another name, then you should have used another alphabet, And so what happened is I think the back and forth just concerning the search warrant was the investigation being done. And as the investigation's being done, they're having to toss it back to the court, judge, whoever, but they're having to toss it to the judge. They make a ruling. And then if something else gets brought up, they make a ruling. And so now you've got 166 pages of a 49-page search warrant because of the investigation into the Brady Giglio. And again, I will say this is in my opinion of the research I've done. I could be totally wrong. She just got promoted to chief. So I was like, I guess sort of wonky. But I think that the investigation, in my opinion, probably may set her up to be on the Brady Giglio, but I don't think it is enough that would be exculpatory or be anything that could get it tossed out of court. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I mean, I don't. I mean, I do, but I don't know how I feel about that. I keep going back to what I witnessed a few months ago in that Rust trial, where they
Right.
threw the case out, and I mean, I don't know if it's the same thing. This is probably a different public safety issue. I don't know, but in that case, that was someone. They weren't accused of first-degree murder, but they were accused of aggravated manslaughter or something along those lines. I don't know. So, but I don't know. I also know that in certain cases, the sanctions that can be put on somebody don't necessarily mean throwing out the whole case. It can also
Right.
mean throwing out the evidence. And it can also mean taking people off the case. It can also mean for the defendant having a pretty big red flag to wave in front of the jury that might be in his defense too. So I don't know how all forms of repercussion from violations of Brady Giglio are, but I think that I don't know, but I've heard that there's different ends of the spectrum that they can respond.
Right. I mean, I think, I know you and Gage did a thing on the Brady Giglio. And so I know one of them is like something to do with exculpatory evidence and stuff like that. And then the other one is maybe a prior offense determining maybe the character of the officer, but it didn't have anything to do with the case. It was a prior offense. And I think that's the Giglio, right?
Yeah, well, let me say, I know that the Brady would be prosecutorial no, I'm sorry, it's the other way around. Brady would be officer misconduct and Giglio would be prosecutorial misconduct. And the only reason I'm basing that off of is I remember in court them saying that it was I just remember them saying that in court. So
Right.
I'm not an expert, and I should.
Yeah, I mean, I think that with the things that maybe she did in the past, may have something to do with it. But then I can tell you exactly what I think happened with the search warrant when you get ready for that, because I know right now you're just setting the story up, and I don't want to say, hey, here's the big old plot, before you get there.
No, I know, and you know the story better than me, so I'm glad you're guiding that. So let's play this. This is a 30-second clip, and then it's gonna tell how Don Daniels became into power, and then the second one touches on officer misconduct, and it's only a 2-minute clip. So, and then we'll talk about these because I have a few things to say about this story too, because I found it so disturbing.
We go to breaking news. Murder suspect Bryan Kohberger wants to challenge his indictment. A grand jury indicted him on 4 counts of first-degree murder and a count of burglary last month after his December arrest in Pennsylvania for the murders of 4 University of Idaho students. His defense team and the prosecution have not come to an agreement about what evidence to turn over to Kohberger that the grand jury saw. A Latah County judge entered a not guilty plea on Kohberger's behalf after he stood silent in court. Koberger now asking that his case be put on pause while he challenges the indictment.
All right, let's stop that.
Says the families at the Ford University of Idaho.
And I'm going to stop sharing my screen and pull the other one up. And this one's called 3 WSU Police Commanders Retire Amid Scandal.
University police officer is under investigation following allegations that he engaged in sexual activities while on duty. And now 3 high-ranking members of the department are leaving their jobs. Graham 2's Amanda Rowley explains why in this developing story from Pullman tonight.
2 years ago, WSU Police Command staff learned one of its officers engaged in sexual activities while on duty. That command staff conducted an internal investigation instead of reporting this to the university. Now that they face possible termination, the chief, assistant chief, and captain all plan to retire.
Washington State University says a WSU police officer reported the allegations to command staff from a third-party source. They claimed Sergeant Matt Kurt engaged in non-consensual sexual activity. The reporting officer later clarified it was consensual, but it happened while the officer was on duty. WSU.
I want to stop there because I think what I want to say it while we're watching this clip because I don't want to like divert from the story. But I mean, just what I was bringing up to my members is this is a unique situation when you're talking about a police officer. And then on top of it, you're talking about a police officer at WSU because it's not just the normal power struggle between you and a regular citizen. It's a power struggle between somebody that could control your future. My screen is wicked glitching out here. Because think about it, an officer, if they were to retaliate against you and they were a WSU officer, it could not only affect your life, but it could affect your finances for the rest of your life. Because think about how much money you invest in university. You know what I mean? And so like the power struggle is so vast when you're talking about a police officer, let alone a WSU university officer, basically holding someone's life in their hands. I mean, to me, it's egregious and disgusting. But let's just listen.
Spokesperson Phil Weiler says the inappropriate activity allegedly happened in the presidential suite at Martin Stadium and at the WSU Observatory.
It does look like there were multiple individuals he was involved in. Some of them were employees at the time or currently employees.
To the best of his knowledge, none of the people involved were underage or a student at the time. WSU policy requires such claims to be reported to the university. Since the command staff didn't do this, they could face possible termination. As the university conducts its own investigation, Sergeant Kurt and the command staff were put on home assignment. But now, the university says Police Chief Bill Gardner, Assistant Chief Steve Hansen, and Captain Mike Larson are now retiring.
Okay. So the other thing, I'm sorry, it's not relevant to the Don Daniels story, but just like talking about this that's going on too, and how widespread this could be. So that particular officer who was accused, there was basically 3 other officers that helped allegedly bury the case.
Exactly.
And for me, it's like, okay, well, why? Like, why would you defend that guy? Like what red-blooded male is going to be like, yeah, I'll defend him.
Because sometimes the people in blue are not red-blooded, they're blue-blooded.
I understand that and I agree, but 3 of them going against their own human instincts, my impression, and this is all speculation alleged, did that other officer have something on them?
But see, the thing that makes me mad about that is if they're going to cover for misconduct like that, that's what makes everyone doubt what they will cover for in other cases. So they're not, I mean, and you know, I'm mourning Label Newman, so they're just screwing all the other police officers that are good.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that's just the only way to put it.
Yeah. And
basically in return, they're messing over any defendant.
And
Because
there must
how fair of a trial can any defendant get if you cannot trust the investigation?
And then on another level, it's what they're doing to the community, because if they're making it so the evidence they collect and whatnot is inadmissible in court, then we can see instances where people who should be behind bars aren't going to be because they didn't play by the rules.
Exactly. I mean, that's just like, I mean, the series that I'm doing now with the Angela Dodge, it has so much of Idaho 4 in it. And
Oh,
it's so weird that it happened in Idaho Falls.
I think that story is super relevant to this case. And I mean, I don't know if we want to trail off on another subject.
No.
What I think, no, but it's now that you brought it up, I think what we'll do is I'm going to write myself a note and we're going to go back and you can explain to the audience just really quickly. I mean, obviously it's a very detailed and long story, but you can paraphrase exactly how this man was wrongfully convicted. And it does play into the things that we talk about every day on this podcast. Let me go ahead and finish this clip and then we'll get into the actual story that we're here to present you guys.
Former Pullman Police Chief Gary Jenkins retired this year. He is now committed to serving as WSU's interim police chief while the university searches for a permanent replacement. Reporting in Pullman, Amanda Rowley, KREM 2 News.
Okay, Nina.
How about I unmute myself?
What was that?
I said, how about I unmute myself?
I know that.
There's a question in the chat that I would like to answer, if I may. Jonah is asking, I have a question for people in the chat about BK allegedly surveilling the victims. People are saying that it does not meet the Idaho definition of stalking, but since he allegedly crossed state lines to do so, wouldn't that meet federal definition? Okay. Yes, I totally agree with that statement, but I think that what happens in that is the federal backed off because the state took over with the murder charges, and that would obviously, be more important than the stalking charge, Now, if BK gets off, I honestly, in my opinion, think federal will come in and do federal charges.
It kind of plays into one of the things Marion just said, and I start a bunch of these comments. Maybe we should even get to them, but that when you say that, we've been talking so much about the federal search warrants, the federal subpoenas, I should say.
That 769 pages.
Yeah. I mean, that right there, which I haven't even had a chance to go over, but we talk about that hearing we were just reviewing where I had one of my mods had sent it over a clip from Forensic Frenzy's channel that I used the other day, and it showed a clip of them in court, and they were talking about the federal subpoenas, and the grievance that the defense had is that the prosecution they weren't handing over the actual subpoena and telling them what they were looking for. They were just handing over the evidence.
Right.
And then they told them, well, it's federal. And it wasn't the IGG. And it had nothing to do with Nick Balance and his work on the tracking. What could it be? And they also said it was a key piece of evidence. I mean, that might explain that, but I don't know what they would have asked for a subpoena for. And I think one of the main ones that they're wanting is the bank. Oh my gosh, is it Banks of America or bank? Starts with a B. The bank. It's got the Michael Douglas in it. Okay, that's how I knew it was going to be the FBI one. Mm-hmm. But when you look at it, you think that they're wanting financials from the bank. Okay, but when you really read it, it says that they went through FedEx to get it.
And I'm like, what's FedEx got to do with a bank? You know, well, come to find out, they're getting camera footage from the bank.
Yeah, I
And,
heard that on Jules. Yeah.
and so from what I understand, FedEx and maybe the bank is on one side and then on the other side, but they're connected in the same building. You know what I'm saying? And something like that, because, you know, of course, first thing you think when you see a bank search warrant or anything, you think financials. And so when I read it, I realized that they weren't hunting financials. They were getting camera footage from the bank and from FedEx from that building. And that building is along the lines of travel that the accused, could have taken to King Road. So I'm wondering if, you know, they got the accused on camera.
I mean, I don't know. I do know. I just wanted to address Mrs. Potts' statement just because I somewhat stand behind this in the videos that I've made. So I want to kind of give my mindset on this too, which is the stalking is a really tricky one because when we pull up the Idaho definition of stalking, it includes surveilling. And there are other things to it that make it defined as stalking, but it's hard to even entertain the idea when we see Edelman and Bill Taylor in open court saying there was no stalking. And then, you know, Bill Thompson getting so upset, being like, you know, there's no stalking. And like, you know what I mean? So, but I don't know. And I don't know what else they could be looking for in those federal trucks. Maybe they were looking for the night of the incident. I don't know. And I don't know how to interpret those 12 pings if it's not stalking. Somebody tell me.
I think what happened with that, and like I said, all of this is my opinion, and unfortunately for me, I think like way outside the box to where sometimes there's not even a box. And so the stalking, I think he was getting so upset because if he did not totally defend that stalking charge, then they could come back on him and get the state for a charge that can't hold up to the statute, because the way I understand it is that it can only be stalking in Idaho if the person being stalked is, you know, it causes fear. In other words, they have to know they're being stalked for it to be stalking. So that's the reason that it got turned from stalking to surveilling.
I didn't know it got turned to surveilling. But I know this is a very passionate subject for people, so I just want to make sure I'm airing like all the comments in the chat. So Marion says, without a clear connection or evidence linking stalking, quote unquote, means nothing. AT made clear there's no link, no solid evidence, and no reason to jump to conclusions based on speculation. That was the other thing that really gets to me too, is all of these speculations. It's not necessarily the stalking part that gets me to stop exploring them. It's the fact that even in the most recent letter that we saw, or the letter we saw in the spring from the Gonzalez family directly to Howard Bloom, the open letter, he's like, sir, if you have a connection, you need to turn it over to Mr. Bill Thompson because he has nothing as of this point. And also Ann Taylor saying there's no connection to the girls. So I don't know. I don't know how the stalking charge plays in, but if it's camera footage, I know maybe that's a different thing. Well, Meg said, I was yelling partial DNA. Yeah. Oh, good. You're going to be up for this show because we haven't even gotten into the DNA part of this. And I'm getting more feisty as this goes on. Miss Potts says the warrant for the trucks was for 1 week, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. Was it for the week of the incident?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. So that, I think probably the biggest thing I want to do is not include the word stalking if I'm like,
yeah, I would totally stay away from that.
But with that established, hold on, let me go down. Meany says, maybe they don't see a strong enough link and it could be a strategy to keep the case streamlined without adding federal complications. Hold on. While I'm going down these comments, why don't we get into this, just so we're not giving any dead air. So we got to the part of the story where the WSU officer resigned, 3 officers early retirement, and Don Daniels comes in to take over the position. Now, we just showed you a search warrant that turned from 49 pages to 166 pages. And then we showed you the backstory as to why the officers were gone. Now, I guess where we're at the story where Nina and I are delivering it to is BK now. It has the search warrants being executed. And this is where the part with Don Daniels comes in. Am I right?
Yes.
Did I miss anything? Okay.
Now, you do know too do you know about the story of the Lowe's credit card with all the police officers?
No.
Oh, well, yeah. During all this too, to her rise of power. So there's like the police officers, Lowe's, Home Depot, I can't remember which one, but it was one of those. Each police officer got a credit card for that store. And every month they were responsible for paying the credit card. Okay. And it was for stuff that they may need at work or, anything like that. Well, the officers started using it like to remodel their house and, put a fence up and stuff like that because they were paying the payments. So I guess they thought it was their personal credit card. What they didn't realize is because the credit card went through a university, they were getting the no taxes and all the benefits of a university using their credit card. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And so basically they were committing fraud because it wasn't their credit card and they were reaping the benefits of no interest and no this and no that of the benefits of the university and using it for personal use. Does that make sense?
Oh, it's awful. It's totally awful.
So now Dawn Daniels was the purchase order person.
She was what?
She did all the purchase orders. And so she knew everything. She didn't do it, so they say. She didn't, use the credit card like that. But she did the purchase orders and everything, so she knew everything going on. So I guess during this part of whatever they're going through with the sexual misconduct, I guess she thinks it's a good time to turn all the officers in. So, she's squeaky clean. She's bringing it forward. And so all of them get, disciplined and everything except one, and he gets fired. And he was the only Black police officer on the force. And so he goes and files a discrimination suit. Yeah, I mean, it's like crazy, But Dawn Daniels is right in the middle of all this, as everything's crumbling down. She's walking on the crumbles going up the ladder, and she gets paid like 3 times the amount that most assistant chiefs get paid, And so now she is free and clear of that, because now she's not doing the purchase orders because she's assistant chief. And yeah, so that was one of the ways she got up the ladder too.
Good gracious. I mean, I just, when people think, oh, well, they were paying it themselves, and then you bring up the tax incentives, you also have to talk about the business. I mean, the business itself had fraud committed to it. And the reason I know that is because my husband is a general contractor. And one of the reasons why people hire a general contractor is because they have those types of accounts. So If you need your entire house done with cedar shingles, you don't have to reach into your pocket and you know what I mean? And there are contracts involved and everything like that. But I'm saying a contractor, when it comes to home improvement stores like that, they not only get accounts, but they have to apply for them. You can't just walk in off the street and be like a homeless person and be like, yeah, I'd like to open up an account where I have an expense rate of like, of like $50,000 or $100,000. They're not going to do it. You have to earn that right or apply for that right with that store. And on top of it, you get your store discount. Now, the stores do that with the general contractors to incentivize them to bulk order like their lumber or their shingles or their whatever from their store. So they offer up a general contractor discount when you do those extended lines of credit. And I'm sure it's
Right.
probably the same for all of them. Like if it's home improvement, that's what they're probably, I don't know. It's ripping off the store as well. So it's not just
But you consider, the size of a university, what you can imagine what kind of benefits they gave that university, So the officers were reaping the benefits, you consider if we're going to say Lowe's, I don't know what their interest percentage would be, but, say it's 17%, I'm just throwing a number out there, then that's money that officer's saving every month because they're not having to pay the interest.
Yeah, that's a crazy story. And then the fact that she played both sides of it afterwards, allegedly, in your opinion.
Oh yeah,
So-
she straddles the fence quite often.
So we got Miriam with this comment: getting an STR profile from 19.6 picograms of text DNA would need a reference, like Brian's buccal swab, to confirm a match. Looks like they used his father's trash DNA to compare the complete profile. And I would agree with that. But even like before that, they used family trees, I don't know. But anyway, sorry, go on with your story. I just wanted to bring up Miriam's because obviously people are ready to get to this DNA. It's hot on people's minds right now. 2 people have commented on it.
Yeah, the IgG, see, I am, again, of the unpopular opinion. I honestly believe that the IgG is the informant.
It isn't or is? I didn't quite
Yes.
understand.
I think the IgG is 100% the informant.
The informant. Oh, okay. A lot of people agree with you. In fact, I was, and I kind of am in that same camp, although I do reserve the right that could be interpreted in different ways. So,
Right, right.
but yeah, I agree with you because the DOJ, I believe, tells us to list the IgG as an informant. Is that right?
Yes,
Hear
yes.
that? Okay.
And see, the thing about it is, the statement that he made about we can't give them what we don't have.
Yeah.
As far as the IgG, I believe that statement is 100% true because in the DOJ, the regs says that once someone is arrested, that the FBI is to destroy everything that they did with the family tree. Because it's not to be kept or anything, because like an informant, it was only a tip. It was not an investigation. It was not you know what I'm saying?
I don't know. I thought that too for a long time. Then I read the DOJ guidelines and they say the opposite of that. I mean, I'd love for like a Mrs. Potts or someone who's read that. I thought the DOJ guidelines, that we were told that line about destroying because that's what Bill Thompson said, but we found out after the fact they were actually, per DOJ guidelines, supposed to hand it over to the prosecution. I'd love to get clarity on that. It's a tough thing to talk about because they haven't legislated it yet. So all the courts and the judicial systems go off of the DOJ's guidelines. And that doesn't serve any of us, because what happens if somebody does something that's not on the up and up? Are they going to go to jail? Probably not. Might they lose their job? Maybe. But if they put somebody behind bars for the rest of their life, and they don't even have the consequence of, there has got to be laws put in place to protect people. And the other part of it too, which I found fascinating recently, is when somebody is arrested and they go for a plea deal, they might have IgG in the evidence and not know it because the prosecution doesn't have to give all evidence over at the time of plea deal because there's no discovery process. You know what I mean? So it gets very complex, and I think there should be rules in play because somebody should always be able to face their accuser. And that's the argument people are giving. When you get a plea deal and there's IGG involved, you should know that. You should know who your accuser is, because I don't believe that the process has been completely vetted through our system yet. It's hard to choose your words and
Right. And
carefully. You know?
unfortunately for me, I don't choose my words. I just say them.
I don't get away with that very good.
I know.
Stupid things.
Maybe you should put a warning label up.
I got it all commentary is speculation. Okay.
The warning label's on panel.
We like that. We like people who speak freely. Phil's comment says, to get really crazy, if payments cross state lines as a group, they would be aware of the activity. It becomes RICO. Oh, I don't know what we're talking about. Okay, so let's get to the part of the story where Don Daniels, we just showed that document that turned from 49 pages into 166 pages. So when that warrant was executed, that's when the story really begins. We were just kind of setting up the personality of Don Daniels and the situation that she was in.
Exactly. And the thing about it is, okay, so she gets the search warrant, and I've got my chat on my tablet. So if I miss anything, because I'm going to go out of my chat and go to the document so I can look at it for reference. So
Okay.
if I miss anything in chat, I apologize.
No worries.
But what happened was, like I said, here comes Exhibit A, but it was Blaker's Exhibit A. And she takes that, and instead of just taking Exhibit A like Pennsylvania did, and to the judge and saying, you know, we need a search warrant, blah, 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 and letting the judge rule on it, Dawn Daniels decides that she wants to put her own narrative into it. And she informs the court of them getting the trash and it being a 99% match and all this, and goes as far as she's asking the court to just not look at that and not consider it, and, you know, to make sure that they're not going to say it's exculpatory or anything like that. And, you know, why? My question is, number one, why did you even think you should do that? And number two, what gave you the right to do that? You know, I mean, and so I think and like I said, all this is my opinion, but I think her cockiness sort of set her up to say, oh, well, I'm going to do it this way. You know what I'm saying? And made herself maybe more important in the case than, does that make sense?
Well, I mean, I have a couple guesses, but yeah, I mean, I think your observation on that 100% could be true. Absolutely. I mean, I also think that there could be that, you know, some degree of hubris involved. You know what I mean? Like overbearing pride. You know what I mean? If
Right.
you just got away with climbing the ladder by writing off a bunch of things that are allegedly bogus,
Yes.
hubris, you know?
And so now you're just going to say, okay, I know Blaker gave me their, you know, the Exhibit A, and that's what I take to the judge, but I'm going to put my own 2 cents in, you know. I mean, Pennsylvania did the search warrant with just the Exhibit A, you
Yeah.
know. And so, but then the problem really came in was they go do the search warrant, right? Well, while they're doing the search warrant, ISP is there and stuff like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so she puts the evidence in her vehicle and takes it to WSU Police Department and puts it in locker number 35 and keeps the evidence for, like, it's either, I'm going to say 7 to 10 days. I would have to, you know, really look at it and see what it says. But okay, if the people are there that it happened in their state, why didn't you put it in their vehicle and just let them take the evidence that day? Why did it have to go? Why did it have to go to a locker?
I
And-
have no idea.
If you'll notice the paperwork you were just scanning through,
Mhm.
if you'll look in the top right corner, it'll say locker 35.
In the top, oh, they're right there. Locker
Yeah.
35, right there. Let me see if I
Why?
can find it.
Why?
Why?
I mean, why are you going to double handle the lumber?
This doesn't make any sense.
You know, I mean, and like I said, all of this is 100% just stuff that I saw that was a red flag for me. But you know my stance on this case. So if it's a red flag for me, it's definitely a red flag for somebody else.
Absolutely. And I mean, when we sit here and we talk about what the possible Brady Giglio violation is, I mean, that's chain of custody. And I also was thinking when you said that, it's not just that she put it in the storage locker number 35. She also kept it for 7 to 10 days. And if they
Right.
were looking to retrieve DNA evidence, all of us know that even indoors, the deterioration of touch DNA after 7 days, there's an expiration date on it. So what the
Well,
hell?
then after that, if you will keep reading, you get into Ann Taylor, her meeting Ann Taylor for Ann Taylor to get stuff out of the apartment. And it talks about, you know, all the ways that it's supposed to be handled. Like, you know, she's supposed to, you know, submit the items that were taken. She's supposed to do this, you know. And if you'll read through there, it says that they left his apartment and she forgot to leave the evidence list. Okay. So
Oh my God.
she goes back to his apartment alone and slips it under the door. Now, to me, again, it could be totally innocent. But in a case like this, if it's a red flag for me, it's a red flag for somebody else that is totally 100% fighting for BK. You know what I'm saying? You know, and I'm fighting for, I want everybody to understand. I'm fighting for BK too. If that man is innocent, let him go and live his life. Okay? 100%. To me, justice is only justice if it's real justice. And that means real justice being for the victim and the defendant. You know, and I do not ever want, you know, an innocent man to definitely not go to prison, but 100% not get a death sentence.
In like, I just think about that search warrant and how part of the way that it becomes constitutional is that when you leave a list of what you're taking at the place where the search warrant was or at the residing evidence, but it has to be presented for a
Right.
reason at the time of collecting, and that's to protect your constitutional rights. So
But her being assistant chief and she forgets to leave the list. I mean, I could see an officer forgetting that, you know, but an assistant chief forgot to leave the evidence list. And then she goes back alone and slips it under the door. And I mean, all that's stated in there in the 160. It's not stated in the original order, but in this 166 page one, it's documented everything about, you know, her forgetting and going back. And then it's talking about meeting Ann Taylor, and you know, she lists stuff that they took and all this. Well, then something about Ann Taylor comes back again another time, and no, it wasn't Ann Taylor. It was Ann Taylor's assistant or something, but it was from, you know, from their office. And she informs them that, you know, they have to give her documents, blah, blah, blah. And they're like, okay, we'll email them to you. Well, she makes sure that she documents that as of this date, I have not received anything from defense. And I'm like, why are you going so far down I don't know. Maybe it's just I don't like her. Maybe I'm judging wrong.
Bias. Hey, I just want to stop for one quick second because I saw that AR is in the audience.
Well, hello, AR.
Hello, AR. And AR, I saw you say if you're supposed to be on this panel. You're welcome to jump up if you want to talk about what we were talking about last night. We're happy to address it now if you want, but we were planning on going on at 5:45. It's up to you. We are at your service when you are ready. And if you want to do a different time, we're ready to. But yeah, this was what I was telling you. I had Nina planned to be on the show anyway today to talk about this. So I did drop a chat in the link. It's at the for the panel. It's up at the top. So because he wrote this, who am I supposedly going to be with? I don't know.
Huh?
Maybe I ran it. Maybe I found some random comment in the chat that wasn't. So after this, when did people start bringing up grievances with Dawn Daniels? Was it immediately?
Well, see, as far as I know, nobody has. I mean, I say, hey, I think Dawn Daniels is the Brady Giglio, and people are like, what? You know, but I don't think I think that here's what I think happened. I think that everything happened with the search warrant, and it was brought up about the Locker 35, blah, 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 behind the scenes. And I think all that came out when Thompson admitted the Brady Giglio. He had to turn it over, or he would be in prosecutorial, And so I think what happened after that is they did the internal investigation, and that's the reason that it was sealed for 60 days. Why else are you going to seal a warrant for 60 days? Because if you'll remember, the WSU search warrant was sealed because the Pennsylvania search warrant was sealed. And when the judge in Pennsylvania unsealed that warrant, that's when it gave Washington the right to unseal theirs. And that's when the 49-page one came out.
So weird. And so you say she interjects herself with these little stories. And we were talking about, she went back and talked about collecting the profile from the trash can. And that's how we found that out.
Yes. In the search warrant, if you will go up to the very top, I think that's going to be the original search warrant. If you'll go back up to the top, you'll see Exhibit A when Exhibit A comes up. Exhibit A by Blaker. Okay. And if you will go through Exhibit A, and I know it's like 19 pages, but if you'll go through that, that's when you will get to where she injects her part. Wow.
I'm not sure which page it is. One thing that is coming to my mind is if you remember back when this crime was talked about on a daily basis in the mainstream media, you had press conferences with Chief Fry every single day. I wonder if she might have thought by giving a more thorough report, by showing, really dogged police work, she thought maybe.
Isn't that biased?
Oh, I don't agree with it in any way. I'm just trying to speculate why somebody would go to these lengths.
But don't go and do a search warrant being biased. You're setting it up for failure. I'm sorry, I get passionate.
You get passionate because here's the thing is we know about this situation, but how many other defendants are out there who have had...
I know one.
And who is that?
The one that I'm doing the story on.
You know what? This might be a good... do we have more about Dawn Daniels other than...
Oh, yeah, there's more.
Oh, okay. Let's keep going with Dawn. And
Yeah.
I'd like to finish part of your new video.
So let's see. She went back to the apartment. They came to the apartment. And then I think that's when all that comes down, where she's putting in there about the, I mean, she puts everything in there, even down to the no trespass order and the, I mean, why does the no trespass order have to be in a search warrant? That's nothing to do with a search warrant. That's nothing to do with us. No, you put that in there just to say, oh, look, he's got a no trespass order.
Show how thorough your police work is. I think she might have been thinking that because the perpetrator went to WSU, she might have daily press conferences. So maybe she was putting it all. I can't think of any reason to do this other than maybe she thought she was having daily press conferences and she was trying to.
Let's don't forget, just 2 weeks before that, they shot a guy.
What? Oh, God. Yeah. Oh, my gosh.
I mean,
Well, first
Let's
tell the
don't-
audience because
let's
not
don't forget all of these self-unalivings that happened to where I think 3 of their fraternities and sororities got shut down.
in WSU.
Yes.
But just so because Nina, not everybody watching has followed the case from the beginning. Can you tell them what you meant by an officer shooting just a few weeks earlier?
That would be a Purple Heart recipient that, in my opinion, was in a post-traumatic episode. And if it happened the way they say it happened, and I will say that with a big O if, I believe in my heart that he chose to do a self-unaliving by police.
Yeah.
And that would be Brent Kopacka.
Yeah. I mean, to be honest, I haven't been able to form a solid opinion on what I actually think happened. Do I think that the surrounding of his apartment and the way that was executed was right? I don't know all of the information, but I have seen the body security cam, and I think it was on Truth Transparency. I want to make sure I'm at least saying where I saw it. And I was taken back by the way they handled that situation.
That situation.
And
I'll put
I'm
it to you this way. I was so enraged by that. One of my best friends retired as an intelligence from the Army. And I actually sent him all the footage and told him that I thought a Purple Heart recipient had been murdered and I needed him to investigate it.
Did he look into it?
Yes, he did.
He probably couldn't get much farther than any of us, though, I would imagine.
Yeah, he got pretty far with it. Unfortunately, he can't tell me.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, at least somebody's able to get answers. At least somebody knows what the truth is out there,
Well, I mean, if nothing else, I mean, if he's involved with the Idaho 4 or not, okay, I don't even discuss that aspect of it because I firmly believe that he was murdered. Sorry.
No, I'm glad that you come out with a bold statement like that. My issue with the body cam footage, and I've had this conversation with Jeff H because he thinks that it doesn't sound that far of the realm of possibility. But what bothered me was this young student who they used for like their home base for the raid. And they went into his apartment and he was helping them use his furniture as barriers. He was making them snacks. He was making them drinks. And I don't know, like, I just think if you're going to be in a serious enough situation where you might potentially execute someone, why is there a citizen in the line of fire? You've evacuated the whole building. It's hard for me to take the seriousness that they felt the seriousness of the situation if they allowed this person to stay in their apartment while they're conducting that raid. Now, I think that where I might I might agree with the police if I could have some evidence that there was a another gunshot. I don't know what to think. I think that if there was no gunshot, why wouldn't they just, they've already got the building cordoned off. Why wouldn't they just wait until they can get him out? You know,
Well,
don't know.
my biggest problem with it is, okay, you know, one of the roommates got out, right? But there's one roommate left with his dog. Okay. There's so much danger that they go in there and they get the roommate and the dog and they walk out. So that leaves only the perpetrator in there. Okay. You have one perpetrator. Why are you going to hold it up for 8-9 hours when you have one perp in an apartment? I mean, you know, and the thing about it is he is a Purple Heart recipient that wasn't he a ranger? I think he was a ranger. Do you think that he's going to set himself up in front of a window? In
good
front of a window. I'm going to be an Army Ranger and I'm going to set myself up in a bedroom in front of a window, knowing that snipers are out there.
I didn't even think of that, Nina. You're right. A trained Army Ranger isn't going to put his positioning probably at a window. I mean, unless he was putting someone in the line of fire at that moment. Yeah.
Exactly. And the thing about it is they want to talk about how they did the was it gas or pepper spray? I think they threw the canisters of have y'all ever been around that? I don't care if it was in that apartment, it would penetrate. People's eyes would be burning, they would be watering, that it wouldn't just stay isolated in that one apartment, you know. And the thing about it is, where are you going to throw it? Was he standing there with the door open too, so you could throw it in there? So now I'm standing in a room with the door open and in front of a window.
I didn't think of that. How did they get the tear gas in there?
You know, and then if you'll remember, this is the way I think it happened. I think they were in the bathroom behind the door, and that's who took him out. I don't think a sniper or anybody from outside the building. I mean, outside. I think someone from inside that apartment took him out. Because the door was propped open with a chair. And you could plainly hear them talking to him. If they were outside that apartment talking on a bullhorn, it would have sounded entirely different. And you wouldn't have been able to hear everything they were saying to him. Number one, they never, not one time, addressed his mental health. Number two, not one time did they ever call for any kind of mental health provider, a psychiatrist, maybe somebody from the Army that could talk him down. You know what I'm saying? Not one time did they ever call somebody and say, hey, we've got one of your officers, why? Because they had already had dealings with him. Let's see, I think he was talking to a manhole cover one time. Somebody was going to come up out of the manhole and attack him. One time they had an exchange with him at a motel. And of course, he was just cracked out on meth or something. He couldn't be in a PTSD moment. He had to be cracked out on meth because he was talking all paranoid and everything, Well, I'm sorry, he's got a brain injury from protecting his country. Sorry. I mean, not,
Well, coming off Veterans Day, it's okay. Like, I understand why you're speaking your mind. It's like, exactly, we're going to assume that he's high on illicit substances when, if you run his name, you can find out that basic information that he was combat infantry and there could be possibly some mental health. Yeah, that's a flaw in the system, Nina. I think you nailed it.
But if you'll notice, okay, when they're getting set up and having the party in the room next door, we're going to have the party in here, y'all want some drinks? So you want a beer? I mean, sorry, he didn't offer him a beer. I shouldn't have said that. But anyway, but if you will listen really closely to the officers talking, there's the female and the male talking, and they are already talking about how that, the exchanges they've had with him, and, he's out of his head, blah, 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 blah. maybe at that time y'all should have been discussing getting someone smarter than y'all in y'all's party next door to talk to the man instead of just saying, oh, well, he's probably just talking to the manhole, you know. Sorry.
Yeah. No, and I feel the same way. I just cannot understand the setup of that stakeout. And then the other part where they had already been on a standoff for so long. What's the rush? It's a standoff. Like, you're trying to preserve a life. The point is to protect and serve. Like, if the threat isn't there because the building is evacuated, what is the rush? Is it
They didn't even evacuate the whole building. I mean, good Lord help, I could get so started on that one. I mean, you know, and you know, here's the thing about it is you hear them say he's down or something like that, but then you hear the gunshot and the thud of him going down. Okay. And I believe that the officer was behind the door in the bathroom, because when the door opened into that apartment, the door would block the bathroom door because it would be behind the entrance door. You know what I'm saying? And so they had the cover of the door being propped open because it opened inside to the inside of the apartment. And if you will notice when you're watching the video, the first bedroom has the fuse box, the breaker box panel. Okay. And you can see that breaker box panel the whole time because you can see in the bedroom. Well, then all of a sudden you will see Brent and you can tell that he's like going across the hall. You know what I'm saying? And then all of a sudden you don't see the breaker box panel anymore, which means that door is closed. So that's not the room that he got unalived in. He got unalived in the other room. Okay. So you're going to tell me that I'm going to run across the hall and I'm going to shut the door behind me. Oh, well, can't leave the door open. I got to make sure I shut the door as I'm running. I mean, but that door ends up shut and you can't see the breaker panel anymore.
so weird?
Maybe I noticed too much.
Well, I mean, that's the point. That's the point. We appreciate you picking up on this. People are coming up with some really interesting comments. Right before I read Ms. Potts, I just wanted to read the next three comments. So, and welcome old Granny Annie traveling again. She says, the address Brent used a few weeks before was different. They swatted a vacant apartment, in my opinion.
There was no furniture. I totally agree with that. And I'm so glad that she brought that up. When they opened the door to go in and get the roommate, there is just a quick glance of the living room. There's not one stitch of furniture.
And he had two roommates too, right? Allegedly, right?
I call bullshit on that. I don't even think, I think that I don't.
All right.
You're going to tell me that 3 guys live in an apartment and they have not one stitch of furniture?
I don't see it happening. Capable young men who can actually afford to buy some furniture. No.
Right.
No, that's a really good point.
And the thing about it is, why wasn't he in his room? Why was he in one of the roommates' room? Because Brent's room, okay, when you walk in the door, you have the bathroom and a bedroom. That was Brent's room. He was across the living room over there where the bathroom was and all that. So they say that he was in, I think it was bedroom C, and that they shot him through the window. Now, I have never been in the military, but me personally, when you go through that little hallway to the bathroom, there's a closet.
Mm-hmm.
And, me personally, I would have stuck myself in the shower and shut the bathroom door, or I would have hid myself in the closet if I was gonna. What was he doing? He was setting stuff on fire and throwing it at them. He was throwing stuff at them, So I guess the door was open, or he couldn't have thrown stuff at them, So anyway,
It's so bizarre. You know what? I'm going to bring up a couple of these other starred comments here too. We have some starred comments about Don Daniels, because don't forget, we were here to talk about DNA and WSU. But the thing is that we're talking, and just so everyone knows, we're not sitting here trying to trail off onto some conspiracy theory. We're literally talking about the WSU Police Department and the changing over of the chief, which was Don Daniels. And we're talking about the chain of custody of evidence. It just so happens, though, why we got into this conversation is we're talking about appearances and what a warrant that went from 49 pages to 166 pages, which appeared that a lot of stuff was interjected in it that had no relevance. And some of it was like almost incriminating to the person that collected the evidence. And all we can surmise from that is that she thought her maybe press conference. I don't know. What do you surmise from that? Interjecting herself into the case? What was your, if you had to?
Well, I think that, to be honest, maybe she didn't believe in the Exhibit A and she needed to add something.
Oh,
Stack the deck.
that's interesting. That's actually
Yeah.
a legitimate, like that's something that doesn't have to impede on her character that she might have been trying to do.
Exactly. You know, that, okay, they don't have enough evidence. The judge may not sign the search warrant. So if I throw the 99% match to the DNA in there, I'm going to ask them not to consider it. So I'm going to throw it in there anyway, but I'm going to make sure that they don't consider it. Then why the hell put it in there? That's sort of like jury strike, strike that remark, jury. You did not hear that. Okay, I unheard that.
Hold on. Rolo says, I think they were filming adult film and they were told them to part of the act and it was a SWAT coming over. Okay, let's go to the next question. I have a couple of starred questions here. So Criminal Minds says, Payne was on the, thanks Rolo. Payne was on the scene and served with Kopaka. And I thought the next comment that he made afterwards was interesting. And he says, why didn't Payne talk to him? And there were roommates that were allegedly threatened.
Absolutely. Critical Minds, if y'all don't follow, please go follow. I love Critical Minds.
Oh, we'll have to I think Christy's here. Maybe one of my mods, if they're here, they could drop a link to Criminal Minds in the chat for the folks. And of course, warning label Nina will make sure they know all your details before you get off. But I thought that was a really interesting statement. Like, yeah, you would think that your brother that you served with would be the person to talk. I wonder if he did.
The police officer that the body cam is being recorded from during the whole thing of the hallway, he's ex-military. Why couldn't he have empathized, sympathized, had some compassion, stood up for maybe a military brother and said, you know what, give me a shield, I'm walking in. He's one person. Carry a shield and go help the man. Don't kill him.
It gets to me as it's like this indifference for human life. Like that's
exactly
not what we were. This was the one country where your life mattered. Like they care. Like that, you know what I mean? A life matters, and like you this indifference for human life, like the way it feels, the way that it appears. I don't know that for a fact. None of us really know all the evidence. I wanted to bring up this statement by Mrs. Potts because she's been following this case from the get-go. She has really great comments and good live streams, to check her out. Allegedly, the doorbell camera from the apartment next door showed 2 officers showing up prior and removing a dog from the apartment.
Yes.
How did they?
Yes.
They
removed so the first roommate got out. He is the one that made the phone call and let them know that there was another roommate stuck in there and he had a dog. Okay. And so 2 police officers goes up there and they punch in the code because, they got the code to punch it in. And 2 police officers go in and they tell him, let's go, get your dog, let's go. And they leave the apartment and shut the door and leave Brent in there. Why the hell didn't you get him right then? And if he is such a threat, why didn't he attack y'all right then? There's only 2 of you. If he's such a badass, he would have come out and attacked y'all.
I didn't even think of
And
that.
another thing, why wasn't the roommate dead if he was such a threat? He was in there by himself with him.
Is the allegations that he started firing and they fired back?
The allegation began with the roommate calling, saying that he was agitated and pacing, and he told them they had 5 minutes to get out or he was going to shoot them. And I guess the first one said, "Deuces, I'm out," and went and called the police. And that's how it started. This is one man that never even tried to come out of the apartment, never ever tried to attack anyone, never. I mean, I'm going to be honest with you. I watched every episode of any body cam footage there was, from Truth and Transparency to LTL to whoever had it. I watched it just in case they had 1 minute that I didn't see, you know. And I'm telling you right now, I mean, come on, y'all. I'm a 55-year-old woman. Give me a damn shield. I'll walk in there and try to talk to the man. Maybe he just needed a hello. I mean, and the thing, exactly, WSU Kim, you know, you do not receive a Purple Heart just to give you a Purple Heart, okay? Purple Heart recipients, they don't get them just for no reason, you know. And the thing about it is, so what if he was messed up? You know, what if he was strung out and in meth psychosis? So what? If you earned a Purple Heart because of how he earned it, because you're going down through there and the bomb goes off and kills your whole squad and you're the only survivor and you've got a traumatic brain injury and everything from it, maybe you should be doing some meth to calm yourself down if it does. Not condoning meth at all. I'm just saying, so what if he was messed up? You can have some compassion, you can have some empathy, but better yet, you can have some appreciation for his service.
Yeah, it's the whole thing is heartbreaking, and I think that like also, I think
Exactly. Get his mama on the phone. That's what somebody just said.
Yeah, I put that one on the screen, Chief. Yeah. The whole reason, and we're talking about this too, is we were talking about the chain of custody for Bryan Kohberger's stuff that was seized during his search warrant. And we were talking about some of the anomalies in it, such as the chief forgot to leave the receipt and then came and slipped it under the door. And it was in these added documents. So the whole reason we get into the Brent subject and is we're talking about where the police was at that point. Along with that, we had just had the new chief instated because of untimely retirements and resignations due to wrongdoing. And we discussed all of those. So when we're bringing up WSU, we're not trying to go down or bring up Brent and Brent Kopaka. We're not sitting here trying to go down another conspiracy theory lane. This is literally the subject we're talking about. We're talking about the police and their handling of in that particular police department, because we're talking about their leadership and the way that she handled the search warrant. Because search warrants can have cases thrown out. Search warrants, if they violate Brady Giglio, can have a Franks hearing, and sanctions can be put on prosecution, and evidence can get thrown out, an entire case can get thrown out. So it's not an irrelevant subject. This is very important. Whether you believe BK is guilty or not, this could 100% affect the case. And this could be a lot of the stuff that they're talking about sealed in enclosed hearings. Let's just face it, this could be a huge part. Bill Thompson, just to remind the audience, whoever just started tuning in, and we're saying at the very beginning, Bill Thompson was the one who preemptively came out and said, there is a Brady Giglio violation on here. We're presenting it to you as preemptively so you know. And in that case, I think the big detriment to the prosecution is that they're going to be able to use that info on the stand to discredit that testimony, because at its very basic level, that's what Brady Giglio does. Is because an officer has more weight in their word, not just mentally, like that's a real thing. There is more weight in an officer's word. I've been on the Drunk Turkey show and they actually have a word for it they were telling me about. Well, if that's the case, then you also have to have a system like this that discredits that word if it doesn't live up to that standard. So anyway, it's really important subject. And basically, I mean, if we're just going to get back onto the whole Don Daniels subject, where did we leave off? Where did we leave off on this story, Nina? I think we left off at I think the last thing we left off, it had been, she kept the evidence in a locker number 35 for 7 to 10 days before handing it over to the WSU Police Department. I think that's a good place for us to pick up.
Yes. Okay, so I'm going to the file. Don't give me no dead air. I'm going to look for something so you talk.
I'm turning right to the chat. WSU Mom Kim says, I without question agree. He deserves respect and grace. I can offer that because my son was on the same side of the campus, asleep, no alerts. This is on LE in both colleges. How does the U of I play into it? And thank you for leaving the comment, Kim. We appreciate that. But I don't know how U of I plays into it. But it could. I don't know. We're at 66 in Los Angeles, but it's starting to get cold. It's not going to get much colder than that in LA, though, right? I have a little niece who lives in LA, and like when she just graduated from college, but when she was in like middle school, I remember her telling one Christmas that she was getting a pair of Uggs, and I'm like, you're getting Uggs? But they were just really trendy back then, like the ones that go like halfway up your calf. And so she got a pair of Uggs, and I'm like, why do you need Uggs in LA? But she would wear them around with like cut off shorts. But my point is, I don't think it gets that cold in LA, from my knowledge. Miriam says, no gunshots heard, 0 shots heard. Hey, Elizabeth. Yeah.
And the thing about it is, if I'm not an expert on guns, but if Brent was doing all this shooting out the window and everything, they were across the hall. Wouldn't those have been louder if it was him shooting in the apartment across the hall?
Oh, we would be able to hear them. There's no way you can disguise an indoor gunshot.
But they're sort of like pow instead of pow. I mean, and I don't know. I shouldn't have even got started on that one like I did, but I mean, it just infuriates me.
I don't know. I hope that's not why AR left the chat. Sorry, AR. We were really talking about DNA evidence. It's just obviously people get passionate about this subject because, again, in a situation where things are sealed or redacted, we just, as human nature, want to know, particularly when there was a life lost, you know? And so anyway, I do apologize, and I hope that's not why AR left, but we're not trying to get off on any sort of conspiracy. We're literally talking about WSU Police Department. And that incident was the most closest, or their most high profile thing going on right before the arrest of Bryan Kohberger.
So WSU Kim is in chat, so she'll know the answer to this. Let's see, from like 2021 to 2022, I'm not going to put a number on it, but I'm sure Kim can, of the self-unalivings, or the can't be explained unalivings, you know, because of hazing, in quotations. But anyway, and then Don Daniels gets an award from the fraternities and sororities. Really? You have dead kids and you're getting an award?
What was the award and when did she get it?
Oh my goodness. Give me 2 seconds on that and I'll bring it up to you because I've got it.
All right. Well, while I'm here, translucent, you're not blocked. I'm sorry. I'm not doing a good job keeping up with the chat. It's just going faster than. It's just going fast. So I'm like, I didn't even know Trisha was here. Hi, Trisha. Police are not trained to deal with mental health issues when dealing with someone. I think that was one. A lot of the time, not to trail off on another subject, but when we talk about the defund the police movement, I think a lot of that was about, and I'm not stating for or against. That's one of the things they were saying is like, well, reallocate that money to a mental health individual. But then again, I think to myself, how are they going to find all of these mental health individuals, and how are you going to get an unarmed mental health individual at every call? I wonder if officers have like, I mean, they have a SWAT team for like a standoff. Do they have like a mental health division you can call and have them show up on scene? Or is it each officer is trained in mental health? How does that work? How do you deal with the mental health aspect of these violent situations? I don't know.
I don't know, but they had 8 to 9 hours to figure it out. I mean, if they went in there and killed him within an hour or two, I could say, okay, they probably just didn't have time to get somebody there. They sat there for 8 hours. You can't tell me that you can't find an emergency room psychiatrist somewhere within 8 hours. I mean, shit, go get one from what's the next door state if you can't find one in yours. No, don't get one from Idaho. Okay, go to Oregon and get one.
Well, yeah, they have the time. You bring up a really good point, and I don't know. I don't know what the answer is. All right,
I'm sorry. I don't mean, and I come off as gruff or whatever, and I don't mean to be. It just infuriates me. This was a man's life.
Yeah, it's I you know, and I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say. Where can we get official information on the incident that you're talking about? What information is available? I know there's been a FOIA request and people have looked at body cam.
The only information you can get is they did a press conference saying that the police shooting was justified.
No reports or anything you can get?
Oh, no. You can search like on Google, you can read about the, them saying that it was justified. And you can maybe read 2 or 3 paragraphs of, a Purple Heart recipient losing his life. But as far as being able to get stuff like we can get, in the Kohberger case and stuff like that, no, you ain't getting it. And another thing, he didn't have a military burial, right? Now, a Purple Heart recipient doesn't receive a military burial. So again, that was a red flag to me. So I have to deep dive that, right? Because I want to know why you didn't give this man a military burial. I don't care how he died. You don't take that away. He's got his Purple Heart,
Right.
And so from the research that I found, there's a case that he was involved in, and you can tell that it's a military case because they're talking corporals and generals and, stuff like that. And so I've wondered, and I can't find out, unfortunately. So if anybody can, please do. But I've wondered if that case was something bad enough because, they can take your Purple Heart. I mean, they can if you end up getting like a dishonorable discharge or something, I assume that maybe you could lose your Purple Heart or your, but there's a reason the man didn't get a military burial.
Even if you lose your Purple Heart, you still get a military burial.
Not if you're dishonorably discharged.
Really?
I don't think so. I don't think they would give you a military funeral if you're dishonorably discharged, would they?
I mean,
that means you dishonored your.
Yeah, I guess so.
I don't know. I mean, that's the reason I mean, if anybody can find out anything of why he didn't get a military field, and that may not be important to some people, but I want to know why a Purple Heart recipient did not have a military funeral.
And
Why
did
did they not give him the, what is it, the firing thing, the, what's it
It's-
called?
the 7-gun salute or 6
Yes.
guns?
Yes.
I think of when they fold the flag over your grave, because those seem to be volunteers. They seem to be people that privately volunteer to go around to graveyards and do that. And so I just, I didn't know that. And then I just thought this was interesting because you say that they might have taken his Purple Heart away, and Translucent said for having PTSD. Just so you know, we see your comments. I just want to say Kara Willis is here. Kara, I'm so glad you're here because I hope you saw that we played your video the other day. And if you didn't catch it live, the live chat loved you. And we shared your channel handle, and everybody wanted to go visit your channel afterwards. So I hope you got a lot of people coming over and checking out your videos because they loved your theory. They loved what you had to say when you were breaking down some early Gonzalez footage. So I just wanted to make sure I was giving you a shout out while we were live. Thank you for stopping by the chat. So, I mean, why don't we do that? Well, let's continue. Let's see if we can get back, because I want to make sure we get the full story out to Dawn Daniels. And
Okay. I'm gonna read what she wrote. Okay.
All right.
Now,
So
she goes.
just to let the audience remember where we left off in the story, we're getting to the part where she received an award after there had been a bunch of hazing incidents on the fraternity, and I think it became a dry for fraternity and sororities, and it became a dry Greek row after that. And then an award came up, and Nina's bringing up questions about that award.
Oh heck, I forgot about that. I was going to read the search warrant.
Oh yeah, well, go wherever you want to go.
Okay.
You're my guest.
Okay, so she goes through the Officer Blaker's Exhibit A, blah, blah, blah. Okay. But then she says, in addition, I am asking the court to authorize, in the service of the search warrant, the use of assistance from any law enforcement agency from the state of Idaho. So she's asking for them to be present, or the federal government, FBI, or any technical specialist associated with or employed by or contracted with law enforcement agencies, including but not limited to Moscow Police Department, Idaho State Police, FBI, and Idaho State Forensic Services. Okay, so she is getting it approved for any of them to be there that want to be there, right?
Mm-hmm.
So why are you going to put your crap in a locker? Okay, so anyway, it says, I have been informed by Detective J.R. Talbot of Idaho State Police that on November 13th, blah, 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 blah. Okay. On December the 27th, law enforcement agents in Pennsylvania recovered trash that originated from Koberger family residence. The trash was sent to the Idaho State Crime Lab for testing. On December the 28th, the Idaho State Lab reported that a DNA profile was obtained from that trash. It was compared to the suspect DNA profile. The lab personnel concluded that the source from the trash was a male and was not being excluded as biological father of the source, blah, blah, blah. Here's where it goes. This information is being provided to the court pursuant to my duty and obligation to be fully candid with the court. I do not believe this information is exculpatory for the suspect. However, if the court believes it's exculpatory, then the court should consider this supplemental disclosure in the evaluation of the existence of probable cause or lack thereof. But I specifically am asking the court to not consider the supplemental disclosure as evidence supporting the existence of probable cause. The reason for this request is that if the DNA test results are held inadmissible at some point, such a ruling would not impact the finding of the probable cause for this warrant. so long as this court is satisfied as to probable cause regardless of the DNA test. What?
Oh, I'm going to up you on this one. I got your back with this story. So before we do anything, I do want to show something that's been in question recently on my channel. And I just want to bring this up to you. Many people were questioning the trespass admonition letter that I had that was brought to us by Tell It to Elle. And there it is. Boom. Right there.
Oh, honey, there's all kind of documentation about him in there.
Yeah, so I'm glad that we're actually, you said that, and I was scrolling through because I was like, boom, I saw the WSU letterhead, and I'm like, there it is. I'm so glad I wasn't showing a document that isn't recorded. So that's really good. But I totally have your back on this because I just pulled up the PCA while you were talking because Brian's ramblings, and he might be watching right now. If he is, I just want to give credit. He's sent me this part of the PCA before, and he said, this is what I believe is a Frank's hearing. And you're just kind of backing up what he said. But let me pull this up. I'm going to go to page 15 on the PCA, and it's the affidavit. Oh, shoot, this isn't it. Hold on. It's in here, but it is the same exact verbiage. I'm going to pull it up out of my email. Why don't you keep going? And I'm going to pull up that page because I want to show that to you because this is what the other officer said about the DNA. And it's basically this rhetorical statement of, we'd like you to use this, but if you find it not usable, please don't use it.
Right.
Or it says,
So-
if you find it to be exculpatory, but if it's not exculpatory, it's like, what? Wait, what? Why is it part of the probable cause to do the search warrant if it's not a known factor? I don't know.
You know, the thing about it is, you know, the search warrant was supposed to have been gotten from the Exhibit A, correct? If there was not enough in Exhibit A for the judge to give approval on the search warrant, she should have left it alone. She should not have interjected anything in there. And look, I am no lawyer. I am no judge. I'm not even a college graduate. Okay. But if Pennsylvania can base their search warrant strictly on Payne's Exhibit A, then Washington State or whoever, that judge should have been able to get the same search warrant based on Blaker's Exhibit A, correct?
Yes.
So why even, you know, to me, she threw the DNA in there to say, look, judge, just in case you don't think about approving this, remember it's his DNA. It's already a match. So to me, that was making a bias for the judge.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, how else do you interpret that? I'm looking through all of Brian's. Brian actually sent me so much. It's page 15. Hold on. WSU chief. I think it says page 15. Why do I not have the attachment here? Hold on. He says it's page 15. It must be the search warrant. I wonder if it was page 15 before it was unredacted. Oh, I'm on page 17 here. Hold on. I can't find it. All right, well, keep going, Nina. I'm gonna present your document again while I look for mine.
Okay, so and this may be a crazy question, but I just want to make sure that I got this right. Superior Court of Washington, that's like the Superior Court of Washington, correct?
I'm not.
I mean, I know it's not SCOTUS. You know, I know it's not SCOTUS, but you know, it's their Superior Court. And if you will notice this, do they consider? Well, I guess what I'm asking, instead of just saying the state of Washington for Whitman County, this says Superior Court of Washington. And I guess my question is, does that mean literally Superior Court?
I mean, I would assume so, but I don't know. I'm not sure of the wording. What's the
No,
What?
the heading for the search warrant, and if you'll notice, as you go down the case number. And of course, the case number is the date, you know, because for the search warrant. But then you will notice that the case number has been changed to 122922B. So that means that it's been redone.
Wait, 1229. Yeah, there it is. SD 1229-2022A.
Yeah, and 1222B.
So that's when they service, that's the warrant that they served to Steptoe Apartment. So what would have, it's the same warrant. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So, and see the one that's the B. Okay, do you have a copy of A? Wait a minute, there shouldn't have been an A. There should have just been a 122922, right?
In the A, I'm just looking right here. In the probable cause right here. I think it's Exhibit A.
Does the heading say Superior Court?
No, it says Clerk District Court of Latah. And it's-
Okay, 122922B says Superior Court.
What does that
So
mean?
you tell me that it doesn't have something to do with Don Daniels? Something's already gone to Superior Court.
Anyone in the chat have any speculation what that could be? Oh, wait, hold on. Vivian says District Court is lower offenses, Superior Court higher level offenses.
So Vivian, does this mean that, okay, the case number is 122922B? Does that mean that this is a Superior Court ruling, as in Big Boy Superior Court?
Hold on. Superior Court is where felony cases are handled in Washington.
Oh, okay. See,
It would have to be something felonious. Hold on. And then she says the prosecutor told her to include that in the statement.
oh, why?
Bill Thompson told her to. It does sound exactly like the verbiage, nearly that rhetorical verbiage that we've seen before.
Wait a minute. Wow. Now look, y'all, like I said, y'all know my stand on the case, and y'all, there's something wonky about all this. You don't go from a 49-page search warrant to a 166-page search warrant. Vivian, explain it. Why did it turn out to be 166 pages? Not putting you on the spot, but can you please answer that in chat?
And I did find this page. Originally, I had thought, hold on, I'm almost there. I just found them reference the DNA. I'm just looking to see where that quote was that is so much like that. I swear it was on page 15, but I can't. While you're waiting for Viviana to answer. Let me put in, I'm just going to search STR really quickly. Okay, so all right, let's move on to your next talking point while we are looking that up. What else did you see about this that troubled you, Nina?
Let's see. Yeah,
I want to make sure I get everything on record right now.
because now I'm over here looking for her award. Okay. And Vivian probably knows that too, what she got awarded for. Vivian is like the walking library.
No, she does a great job helping me. Okay, so I did find report identifies male based on what I'm requesting that Bryan Kohberger. Yeah, this isn't where I said. I'm going to give up looking because I don't want to keep giving dead air, and I'm going to.
Okay, okay, wait, what are you looking for?
Well, Brian Hoffman had sent me a letter, and I've looked at it before, and he was telling me he was talking about Don Daniels and could possibly be a Franks hearing. He was referencing page 15, but when I go to page 15 on this search warrant, it's like not what I'm looking for. I'll show you. Hold on. Let me find the screen. If I go to page 15, it says nothing about the DNA, but I've read it before because he sent it to me, but I can't seem to find it. but it says the exact same thing as what you're reading, as like this rhetorical statement. We ask you to use this DNA, but if you don't want to use this data, or if you find it to be, it's exculpatory, but if you find it to be exculpatory, don't use it. It just doesn't seem fair to use DNA like that. Like, well, it might be something, but if you find out that it's nothing, don't hold us accountable because we told you it might not be anything.
Exactly.
It's like kind of saying a rumor.
It's sort of like, okay, if you find the panties, I'm cheating, but if you don't, I'm not. I mean, why even bring them up? I didn't know I was hunting some. I mean,
it's like, what's the difference between that and a rumor from a really good source?
why is that not stacking the deck?
That too.
I mean, that's what I mean, and I'm not saying, like I said, I don't even have a college degree, so I am in no kind of way an expert, but if something looks wonky, it's wonky. And if it's not supposed to look wonky, then don't make it look wonky. And if you're not doing anything wrong, what is that? The absence of wrong or whatever, then don't make it look like you're doing something wrong.
Maybe Moscow police should have thought Brent's sheath was found at 11:22 with Brian's DNA. There's so many interesting comments in here. I mean, here's the thing is this is why we have Brady Giglio. This is why we have Frank's hearings, is because when you hear these things where maybe somebody didn't follow all the chain of the procedurals for their jobs, you have some repercussion. Like, just think if somebody handled evidence like this and then used that evidence to throw you in prison for the rest of your life. That's the point.
Exactly. And that's the thing about it is, I mean, okay, my tablet just shut down, so I will not be looking at documents anymore. And I will not be reading that.
If it's possible, then when we hear about these things, look at the suspicions that come up in the chat room. You know what I'm saying? And it's just like, this is why we have it. This is why we have the Brady Giglio rules. This is why we have the ability to hold a Frank's hearing, is for these situations. Because look at how our chat exploded with ideas about what's going on with Brent, what's going on with the research, with the sheath. And then people start questioning the police and their work. And could they have other intentions? It's so important to pay attention to these things, because this is how we keep good officers, separate the good officers from the bad officers and whatnot.
And the thing about it is, I say this on any panel that I'm on. I in no kind of way am arrogant enough to think I can sit in Alabama and solve the Idaho 4 case. Okay. No possible way. And that would just be total arrogance on my part.
Absolutely.
The thing about it is I hope that it at least opens somebody to do research or to look into it yourself, or, because no, we're not going to solve the case because, number one, we've got too many pieces missing, but the thing about it is, if something doesn't look right, bring it up. I mean, if you see something, say something, I guess, because if it doesn't look right, then bring it up. And if other people research it, then maybe there's nothing wrong and I was just looking at it wrong, or I understood it wrong, or perception is everything.
Perception is everything. And, I was thinking about something last night you just reminded me of. And I love science. And I think one of the things that always bugs me is when you hear people say the term settled science, because it's kind of an oxymoron. There's no such thing as science that's actually settled. We only know what we know. And if you were to lay out your knowledge in a linear format, if the bubble was the size of this screen, you would know about this much is what your knowledge is. And 20 years from now, you'll have 3 or 4 times that amount of knowledge. And if you were to come back and look at what you knew 20 years earlier, you just had no way of knowing what the rest of the data was. You don't know the data. And science is always changing, and that's the definition of it. Nothing is ever settled. Science is always evolving. And so we all should be able to take in new information, and we all should be able to update our research. If we don't, then, we just sit in stagnation. Like, we never learn anything. So it's always about opening your mind. It's always about processing new information. You get smarter by exposing everything involved. And also, you're telling us something where we can speak in a place of knowledge. Because honestly, if we'd never had this discussion, I wouldn't have known some of these other little details. Like, there's possibly a Ring door cam that got some of this. Like, possibly there were gunshots. The other one was that I heard that in the comment section, it's possible he was living in a special home for people suffering from PTSD and veterans and mental health. So, I mean, these are things I wouldn't have known if we all hadn't talked about it and brought it into the chat. And that's what I really love about our community is it's kind of like a big think tank, So
Right.
Anyway, I've been fascinated by everything you've had to say about this situation. I'm rethinking this, and I'm beginning to think about that filing we saw several days ago with a grand jury transcript. It very well could have something to do with this. We don't know. So that's interesting. And if there was more discovery or there are more objections to evidence, that is going to be taken care of on, is it the 14th today, right? So, is it today the hearing? So anyway, the latest hearing is meant to talk about that. What
And
evidence?
yes, Viviana just brought up a fantastic, I wasn't going to say it because I don't have the receipts for it. So since Viviana said it, you can say it.
I mean,
It's in chat.
what Viviana is backing up is that there were other mental health issues within.
Right.
So maybe it's backing up that was a place for PTSD, for people suffering from PTSD or veterans, and it would explain why.
It was student housing.
Yeah, that's what WSU Mom Kim was saying.
Why is a 36-year-old living at student housing?
I think that's what they're saying is that it actually was a group home.
Then why the heck lie about it?
I don't know.
If people don't want to think that you're crooked and people want to believe that this investigation is on the up and up and, everything is great and everything was done right, then give the information and don't, and like I said, I'm not, it just frustrates me that if there wasn't any wrongdoing, then don't make it look like there is.
The appearance of something. Right?
It was not student housing. Wow.
Oh. I need to read the audience before I put them up. Hold on. It was let me go back. Students do also rent apartments, but it's also available to anyone. And then everyone is so mad. I will tell you what, I am glad that everybody doesn't think the same and parrot each other. It's good when people talk in the chat. It gives me so much food for thought. And I think it's good too, because if we have an open place we can talk, then I just think that there's less, I don't know. I think that it's a place where you can actually address other people and talk about them. Whereas rather than in the comment section under a video, I think the live chat's a good place. You get a real-time answer from someone.
Well, I will say that as far, for your channel, I don't come out and say everything, but everybody pretty much knows my stand on it. But the thing about it is that's one thing I respect about you is you don't have to be a guilter. You don't have to be a pro-burger. You don't have to be a neuter. A nudie. I wanted to be a nudie one time, but it made me sound like I was neutered. So, but anyway, I don't know what you could call people that's on the fence. I guess we can be fencers, But the thing about it is, I always feel welcome to come on your panel because number one, no matter what my opinion is, I still do the research and bring out stuff and everything that I think is important. You know what I'm saying? I don't care if it's for the guilt or because it's not for guilt or innocence, it's for justice.
Mhm.
And I do appreciate you for that. Sorry.
Oh, thank you so much. I can't even tell you, like, it feels like the highest compliment when somebody is on my podcast and they say that I'm being balanced. Because if you don't know, for anyone watching, my only goal is to be objective when I'm giving this information. I mean, sometimes I get passionate and caught up in things like when I hear that WSU officer article, but I try for the most part to be balanced, and I appreciate you recognizing it and letting us know. I was thinking before we wrap this up, could you please tell them about you have a new video coming out today. If you could just tell what you have going on in your channel in the upcoming days so that the folks know where to find you. And while you do that, I'm going to make a banner for your channel so they also know where to find you.
Well, I did a 4-part series on the Angie Dodge murder. And for those that don't know, in 1996, she was murdered in her apartment in Idaho Falls, Idaho. And I'm not going to take up all the time because it's such an in-depth story. But the guy that went to prison for it was not involved, and his confession was coerced and everything. And he spent 20 years in prison for a murder he did not commit. And her mother is a force of nature. She spent 23 years. She learned all of the forensic stuff, the IgG, everything. And after 20 years in prison, they finally dropped the SA charge, but made the murder charge stick. But when they did that, it allowed for resentencing. And since they took the SA charge off, after 20 years, he was able to walk out a free man as a murderer. And so Carol Dodge kept fighting and fighting for him to be exonerated because she knew that he didn't do it. And so now we're up to the point of him being out of prison. And if you want to see the rest of it, you have to come watch my channel. No, but seriously, when I chose to do the series, I had already read and followed that case because it makes you cry, it makes you mad, it makes you happy, and being a parent that has lost a child, to watch a mother fight to get a man out of prison that's accused of killing her daughter, that would be a fight for a mother. You know what I'm saying? That's some conviction of believing that he's innocent. And so you go through the false confession, you go through the crooked police, you go through the IgG, which please keep in mind, as bad as the IgG comes off in this case, in his case, he is the only person in the world that's ever been exonerated from IgG.
Really?
Yes. And part number 4 is the conclusion and how it ends up, and it's like the saddest thing ever.
I mean, you have me on the edge of my seat with that story, and I can't wait to see your final conclusion in the series. I posted all 3 in our Discord server, and yeah, I can't wait to see it. So thank you for telling us about it. You guys, this is Nina's channel handle. Let's see, you're almost to 400 subscribers. Is that right?
No, I hadn't even made 300 yet.
Well, let's try and get her to 300 today, you guys. Let's go subscribe to Nina.
Making a channel is like the most deflating thing a person can ever do.
It's definitely an art form. I definitely think it's art, and I
don't have that art form.
Well, I think you are a good artist, and I just it's great to see other people's channels and see what they're doing with them. And I know you have a lot of great minds helping you with your channel, so it's going to be awesome. Guys, let's see if we can get her to 300 subscribers. The one thing I will tell you about Nina is that she brings the research, and that's what I've always loved. Is like today we were coming on, and she had this, she had everything ready to go, these search warrants and stuff. I just had to find some sound bites for us. So I can't steer you wrong. You go subscribe to Nina. You're not only going to get good commentary like you just heard, but you're also going to get someone who actually takes her sleuthing very seriously. And I will say, Nina, you're not afraid. You're not afraid to say exactly what you mean, even if you know the person you're talking to is looking for that confirmation bias. You're there to tell the truth as you see it. And I really appreciate that about you. And I know our audience does too. So please go visit Nina's channel, you guys, and subscribe.
And I do come with a warning label for a reason. I
And she
mean,
comes with a warning label.
yes, I mean, bless these people's heart. They never know what's going to come out of my mouth when they put me on their panel.
And Paul, I didn't realize you were blocked in Discord. I'll take care of that. And
That's all right. She blocked me the other day.
Don't take that too seriously, guys. I accidentally blocked Christy, my managing mod once, who is like
I get a message, hey, I'm going to do your video, but you're not there.
Sorry about that. Anyway, as you can see, I too am, I don't know. I don't have a college education either, obviously. You can see by my computer skills. But
also on my channel, just to let everybody know, because I'm transparent, I lost my son, and so I do videos sometimes on addiction and recovery. And I'm also in recovery. So
we are so sorry for your loss. And, if somebody hearing this right now is bound to need to hear this and needs to get to your channel, because your content is from the heart. And I appreciate you being open and honest and telling us that ahead of time. And there's somebody out there who's hearing this right now who needs to hear about your channel. And I'm glad you mentioned it to the crowd.
Well, I mean, I like to be transparent about that, because, I don't want somebody going to my channel saying, oh, look, it's an ex-meth head doing a true crime. I mean, and you have to take that kind of stuff into consideration,
People love to label other people. That's
right.
But at the end of the day, nobody is an addict. Nobody is an alcoholic. Nobody is a this, that. We're all just people.
Right.
We're all just people.
If we suffer from PTSD from a brain trauma, we're still a person. Sorry, I went back to Brent.
No, you're fine. You're fine. And we've already hit the 2-hour mark. Nina,
wow.
Thank you. I know. Thank you for coming on. I do want to say, Nina and I are going to be back on with AR Hayes at 5:45. We have a really, really important message. I am basically just facilitating and offering up whatever I can for viewership of my platform. It is more for AR to come out. He's got some important things to say, and Nina's got some important research she wants to show you. So I will post that shortly and send on the channel so you guys can see. And I'll also post it in the community tab. That's going to be at 5:45 Eastern Standard Time. And we'd love to be there.
That's going to be a good one.
It's going to be a good show. And if I ever, I don't ever really, if I could ask anything of my audience, if you could please be there to support AR, I'd deeply appreciate it from the bottom of my heart. So I'd love to get a good crowd, because he's got an important message that I want to help get out there. And so please be at our channel, 5:45. Nina will be back. And like I said, she's bringing the research to our program. So with that said, I'm going to wish the audience farewell. Nina, if you want to hang out backstage, I'll be there shortly. Okay.
Okay. And to Rolo, who is this farm girl? Rolo, that is some bullshit.
Oh gosh, I don't even know what we're talking about, but I'm sorry if things are out of control in the chat.
No, I was cutting up with him.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well, I love the chat too. And the last comment that I just saw was from Opium Magazine. God bless you, Nina. And then I gotta just say, AR is a good man. He deserves all of our support. Thank you so much. Yes. Y'all have his back and we have his support. And thank you for saying that, Paul. We hope to see you at 5.
And no, it's not members only, correct?
No.
Okay.
Does this live stream say members only?
No, she's asked. Kim was asking about tonight's.
No, I keep members only. Like I wanted, I've been hanging, just so you know, if you guys are interested in a membership, we've been doing Get Ready With Me videos. They're really fun because it's just casual and it's just talking to my members, and it's just kind of fun. So if you're interested in membership, we talk about true crime and I do my makeup kind of Bailey Syrian style, and it's really fun. I think I'm going to keep it up. Maybe I'll release one of those videos in the near future. So, but anyway, I'm going to hang out backstage, Nina. I'll be right with you. I'm going to wish my audience farewell, and thank you for being on the show today. You're such a ray of sunshine. Okay, so woo, there we go. I just want to say thank you so much for giving me such a live and active chat for my guests today. The questions and the comments were unreal, and I just really appreciate you. So thank you, because honestly, if you take nothing away from this live stream and you remember nothing, please remember this, that you are the viewers and you make this channel, and I, Swamp Rose, am nothing without you, the viewers. So thank you for being here so much. And I'd also appreciate any feedback you have on how you think I could improve the live stream or make it better. And lastly, if you gained any value from this, if you could just please hit that like button, because it puts the live stream in front of another person. It really helps me as a creator, and it helps my guests to get seen by more people and get some subscribers. So we'd really appreciate it if you could hit that like button. And then lastly, I would love for you to subscribe to my channel. I put out content daily, and that includes shorts, videos, live streams, and community posts. And I just love to have you part of my community. So please consider subscribing. And with that said, my name is Swamp Rose. I'll see you later tonight, and peace be your journey today.